Hello and welcome to week 2 of our Lent course here at Maidenhead United Reformed Church. We're in one of the halls that's not being used at the moment, but this is where we've been having our meeting this morning as we thought about our next story, our next person, as we reflected on what they experienced in the scriptures and then how did they cope with that, what were their reflections on that. Last week we talked about Elijah, this week we've been talking about a shepherd. And it's a famous passage, and it's not normally thought of as an experience passage, more of poetry. But we're looking at Psalm 23. The Lord's my shepherd. I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in right paths for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies, and you anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord my whole life long. Now, I'm sure, firstly, there's loads of different translations and versions of that, and that may not be your preferred one, but that's not the point of what we've been talking and thinking about. We've been thinking about what it was like for a shepherd, possibly a really young person in a job that was possibly not the highest paid. If you were in a line of brothers, you might be the youngest brother and get to do this role. Even King David, who was chosen from all the brothers, actually wasn't in the original lineup of potential kings because he was out being a shepherd. But a shepherd would have had to deal with real danger, attack of animal, potential danger. You know, when you're seeing shadows because the light is moving and making you feel a bit on edge, looking after your flock, looking after yourself. It's a tough time. And actually, we thought about how this passage really spoke about daily situations and how sometimes there's a lot going on. And yet, in this, there's that real belief that God is there. God is present, even when there is real fear around. And of course, we couldn't help but reflect on what's going on in Ukraine and just reflecting that so many people there believe and know that God is still with them, even if they're walking through a dark valley, or the valley of the shadow of death, as it's sometimes called, depending on your translation. We spoke about other times in the scriptures when shepherds were mentioned, and remembered that if you're worried about the light and the animals and yourself and dangerous animals, what would it have been like to have been blinded by this sort of massive light coming from all these angels that said, hey, there's a new baby that's just been born, go and visit. That would have been a quite shocking and alarming experience. Poor shepherds, they didn't have it easy at all. And yet, in these last few lines, we're reminded of our aspiration, of our hope, that one day, all shall be well. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life. And one day soon, one day coming, one day it will be so that I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. This isn't just for me or for you. This is for all those whose lives are far from settled at the moment. For people who are feeling they're not where they should be, they're doing something they don't want to be doing, or perhaps those who have just accepted their position in life, their circumstances and context in life. There is that aspiration that one day in God all will be well. And perhaps part of our role is to make that happen for other people. Psalm 23 is far from just a beautiful passage. It's actually deeply disturbing because it talks about real fears and problems and dilemmas. but it also stresses our awareness that God is always with us. So for week 2 of our learnings as we go through Lent, perhaps the one thing to remember is God is always with us. So may God be with you, all who you love, and all those who struggle, this day and forevermore. Amen.